Dr. Elena Rice's hands trembled as her excavation team's laser drill pierced through the final layer of Martian bedrock. The vibration stopped abruptly, and the drill bit disintegrated into fine dust that hung suspended in the thin Martian atmosphere of the pressurized dig site. "What the hell?" Chief Engineer Kojima muttered, checking his instruments. "Temperature readings are impossible. Both superheated and supercooled simultaneously." Elena approached the borehole cautiously, her exosuit sensors flickering with interference. Switching to manual recording, she lowered a probe camera into the darkness. The feed showed nothing but static until it suddenly clarified, revealing a vast chamber where no chamber should exist, at least 50 meters in diameter, when geological surveys had indicated solid rock. "Ladies and gentlemen," she whispered into her comms, "I believe we've just made the discovery of the millennium." The team widened the aperture enough for Elena to descend. Despite protests from mission control, she insisted on being first. As the winch lowered her into the darkness, pinpricks of blue-white light activated in sequence along crystalline structures that defied all known geological formations, perfect geometries of translucent material that hummed with impossible energy. "The formations appear organized," she reported, her scientific detachment battling with awe. "They're arranged in patterns consistent with data storage architecture, but on a scale and complexity that makes our quantum computers look like abacuses." Approaching the central cluster, Elena noted symbols shifting across the crystal surfaces, rearranging themselves as if responding to observation. She activated her suit's full spectrum scanners, triggering a cascade of changes throughout the chamber. "They're reacting to specific electromagnetic frequencies," she reported, "almost like." Her glove caught on a protruding crystal shard, slicing neatly through the reinforced material and into her palm. Elena gasped as blood droplets floated in the low gravity, then watched in disbelief as they were drawn toward the nearest crystal structure, absorbed without leaving a trace. The entire cavern illuminated in response, bathing her in light that somehow felt ancient yet alive. Holographic projections materialized throughout the chamber, intricate star charts depicting regions beyond any human telescope's reach, mathematical formulas of staggering complexity, and engineering schematics for technologies beyond human comprehension. "Are you getting this?" Elena asked, her voice hushed with reverence. Silence answered her. "Mission Control. Team, do you copy?" Her communications had gone dead. Even the local mesh network connecting the team had failed. In the unnatural silence that followed, the crystals began rearranging themselves physically, fragments floating together, combining into a three-dimensional message in a language she couldn't read, yet somehow understood perfectly. "The veil has been pierced. They will come." A cold dread settled in Elena's stomach as the implications hit her. This wasn't just a discovery, it was an activation. They had triggered something ancient and powerful. That night, as the research team argued about quarantine protocols and information security, Mars' orbital platform sensors detected multiple objects decelerating at the edge of the solar system, objects moving with trajectories that defied the laws of known physics. Humanity's isolation in the cosmos had just ended, and they were horrifically unprepared for what was coming. The Emergency Security Council meeting dissolved into chaos as satellite feeds display the impossible. 3 massive vessels, each larger than Manhattan, had somehow bypassed Earth's entire defense grid and taken synchronous positions over major population centers. "They've been in position for 17 minutes, General Williams reported grimly. No response to hails on any frequency. The screens flickered simultaneously across every broadcast channel worldwide. Emergency systems, entertainment networks, personal devices, all displaying the same message in perfect English. Surrender what you have found. Dr. Elena Rice sat in stunned silence at the Mars Colonial Authority conference room, watching the transmission alongside her colleagues. 72 hours after their discovery, the artifacts had been quarantined, but clearly not quickly enough. "They came for the archives," she whispered. The alien broadcast continued with coordinates for a meeting location, The United Nations Plaza in New York. 6 hours later, Elena stood beside the Secretary General as a shimmering distortion appeared in the air before them. The being that materialized stunned even the most composed diplomats. Standing 3 meters tall, the creature resembled a translucent humanoid with swirling patterns beneath its skin, galaxies and nebulae shifting in constant motion through what should have been flesh. "I am Schiller," it said, its voice resonating directly in their minds rather than through air vibrations. "I speak for the custodians of the collective. You have found what was hidden. You have breached containment of the most dangerous knowledge in the galaxy." The Secretary General stepped forward. "We discovered artifacts of unknown origin. We seek to understand." "You seek weapons," Schiller interrupted. "Whether you know it or not, that is what you have found." Elena felt compelled to speak. "We've discovered no weapons, only data storage structures." The custodian's attention shifted to her, its gaze physically uncomfortable, like standing too close to a powerful magnetic field. "You are the one who activated the archive with biological contact," Schiller stated. "You will understand." Before security could intervene, a tendril of light extended from the being's form, touching Elena's forehead. Her perception shattered as visions flooded her consciousness, stars violently collapsing, planets cracking apart, entire civilizations reduced to ash. She witnessed beings of impossible geometry wielding technologies that manipulated the fabric of space-time itself. "The precursors," Schiller's voice explained within her mind. "An ancient species that nearly destroyed the galaxy in their war against cosmic predators they called devourers. What you found contains their weapon specifications, technologies too dangerous for any single species to possess." As the mental connection began to fade, Elena glimpsed something unintended. Flashes of worlds subjugated by the same beings now demanding Earth's compliance. Populations harvested for resources, civilizations deliberately kept technologically inferior, all under custodian control. "Surrender the archives," Schiller demanded as the connection broke, leaving Elena gasping. "Or we will extract them ourselves, regardless of the cost to your species." That night, as global leaders debated capitulation, Elena's team on Mars made a breakthrough. The crystalline structures had begun interfacing with human genetic samples in the lab, revealing their true purpose. The archives weren't just data storage. They were keys designed to unlock dormant genetic potential in specific compatible species. "They chose us," Elena realized with dawning comprehension. "The precursors planted these for humanity to find. We cannot surrender technology we barely understand," Defense Secretary Alvarez argued in the underground White House bunker. "But neither can we withstand their weaponry." "The custodians gave us 48 hours," President Chen replied, her face drawn with exhaustion. "What options do we actually have?" The diplomatic channels had remained open but unproductive. Custodian vessels now shadowed every human military installation across Earth and Mars. Satellite imagery showed smaller craft deploying around the Martian excavation site. Dr. Elena Rice's secure video feed from the Mars facility interrupted the meeting. "Madam President, we've made a critical discovery," she said, her eyes bloodshot from sleeplessness. "The archives are activating human genetic sequences that appear to have been artificially integrated into our genome approximately 2 million years ago." She transmitted data showing cellular changes in researchers exposed to the crystals. "We're seeing neurological reorganization, enhanced sensory processing, and in 3 cases, unexplainable energy signatures emanating from affected individuals." "Are you suggesting the precursors modified early humans?" the science advisor asked, incredulous. "Precisely," Elena confirmed. "They seeded Earth with their biological legacy, encoded to activate only upon contact with the archives. We're the descendants of their genetic engineering experiment, designed to eventually inherit their technology." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Across the globe, government officials who had handled archive samples began reporting strange experiences, vivid dreams of stars and celestial mechanics, sudden intuitive understanding of advanced physics principles, enhanced pattern recognition. A junior researcher in Tokyo had correctly predicted quantum fluctuations without instruments. A security officer in Cairo had demonstrated perfect recall of encrypted documents after a single viewing. Custodian surveillance detected these anomalies. Their response was immediate and overwhelming. The Mars Research Facility's perimeter alarms blared as 7 custodian vessels descended through the thin atmosphere. Their weapons charged with sickly green energy that distorted the air itself. Evacuation Protocol Alpha, Security Chief Dawson shouted, herding scientists toward the underground shelters. Elena refused to leave the main laboratory where the primary archive crystals were stored. If they get these, everything we've learned dies with us. The first custodian energy blast hit the facility's shields, experimental technology reverse-engineered from archive data. They held for 3 seconds before catastrophically failing. The second blast tore through the northern quadrant, vaporizing 3 laboratories and the personnel within them. Elena felt something break inside her, not physically, but as if a mental dam had suddenly given way. Energy cascaded through her nervous system, connecting her consciousness directly to the archives. Without understanding how, she thrust her hands forward. A shimmering barrier of blue-white energy materialized, absorbing the third custodian blast completely. Security footage of this impossible defense spread globally within hours. Humanity watched as an ordinary scientist manifested power that defied physics, power that successfully repelled an alien attack. In a secret emergency session convened beneath the Alps, Earth's fractured governments unify for survival. Project Prometheus was unanimously authorized, not just to build weapons, but to systematically awaken humanity's hidden potential. Meanwhile, deep within the archives, Elena discovered the precursor's final message embedded in a crystalline matrix. We chose your kind because you alone possess what is needed, the capacity for both creation and destruction tempered by compassion. The devourers cannot be reasoned with, but neither can they be simply destroyed, or you become what you fight. The asteroid belt transformed in the span of 18 months. What had been scattered rocks became a marvel of engineering innovation, a distributed shipyard hidden through clever gravitational lensing that bent light around the entire operation. Captain Maya Santos surveyed the construction from the observation deck of the transport vessel Harbinger, an asteroid miner before the custodian arrival. She'd never imagined commanding military operations. Yet here she stood, overseeing humanity's greatest industrial achievement. Processing Station Gamma reports another successful fabrication cycle, her XO reported. Quantum entanglement engines for the 7th vessel are ready for installation. Maya nodded, her eyes reflecting the distant flashes of construction lasers. And Prometheus. 93% complete. The stellar manipulation array is proving challenging. The flagship incorporated technology that even the scientists who designed it didn't fully comprehend. Principles decoded from the archives that allowed manipulation of stellar plasma through quantum fields. Maya had been selected to command Prometheus despite establishment opposition. Her genetic compatibility with archive-activated enhancements ranked among the highest recorded, a fact that made traditional military leadership deeply uncomfortable. But her intuitive understanding of the new technologies proved invaluable. Captain, Communications Officer Chen interrupted. Fleet intelligence reports increased custodian activity near Jupiter. They may have detected us. Maya's enhanced senses suddenly flared. A pressure behind her eyes, a ringing in her ears. Battle stations. Now. The warning came 3 minutes before sensors detected the threat. The custodian attack force emerged from faster-than-light travel directly within the shipyard's defensive perimeter, a maneuver that should have been impossible. They've improved their propulsion systems, Maya realized. Evacuate all non-essential personnel to Mars. 8 custodian dreadnoughts unleashed energy weapons that shattered 2 incomplete vessels instantly. Construction platforms exploded in silent bursts of debris and escaping atmosphere. Prometheus isn't ready, her XO shouted over the chaos of the command center. Weapon systems are untested. Maya made the call that would define humanity's future. Initiate emergency launch protocols. Transfer all power to the quantum drive. Engineers worked frantically to prepare a vessel designed for another 3 months of construction. As the massive ship detached from its berth, Maya's enhanced nervous system interfaced directly with Prometheus's control systems, another feature extracted from the archives. The dreadnoughts converge, focusing their weapons on humanity's flagship. Energy beams converged on Prometheus's position. Quantum drive engaging in 3, 2, 1. Reality distorted around the vessel as the untested drive activated. A localized space-time anomaly formed precisely between Prometheus and the lead custodian dreadnought, swallowing the enemy vessel completely before collapsing back into normal space. The impossible victory came with an unexpected consequence. As the anomaly formed, Maya's mind briefly connected with the enemy vessel through quantum entanglement. Images flooded her consciousness. Custodian crews, many visibly distressed, their bodies partially merged with their ships through organic mechanical interfaces. More disturbing were the shadowy parasitic entities visible within many crew members, puppeting their hosts with cruel efficiency. "They're not the enemy," Maya gasped as her consciousness returned to normal space. "They're victims." As the remaining custodian vessels regrouped for another attack, humanity prepared not just for war, but for a revelation that would shatter galactic assumptions about predator and prey. Lunar base Artemis hummed with activity as Dr. Elena Reyes hunched over holographic projections of microscopic structures. Her team had been sequestered in this hidden facility for weeks, working to decode the most protected segment of the archives. "We've missed something fundamental," Elena muttered, her enhanced perception allowing her to spot patterns invisible to conventional analysis. "The Devourers aren't just energy predators. They're something else entirely." Dr. Hiroaki Sato, their molecular biologist, manipulated a three-dimensional model of what appeared to be viral structures. These quasi-organic patterns appear in every Devourer reference. They're not just consuming energy. They're biological parasites that somehow exist across multiple dimensional planes. Elena's fingers traced the intricate patterns. That explains the custodian behavior. They're not malevolent. They're infected. The final archive segment contained detailed biological analysis of the Devourers, parasitic entities that operated on both quantum and biological levels. They didn't just consume stellar energy. They infected sentient species, converting them into servants while feeding on their psychological suffering. "We need to adjust our scanning protocols," Elena realized. "We've been looking for energy signatures, not biological infiltration patterns." Using the genetic enhancements now spreading through humanity, Elena's team developed a revolutionary scanning technology. Rather than conventional electromagnetic detection, it analyzed quantum patterns that revealed subtle Devourer biomarkers. When they tested the technology on captured custodian tissue samples, the results horrified Earth's leadership. Approximately 40% showed active infection, while others appeared to be genuinely uninfected allies or prisoners. Most disturbing was the detection of quantum spores matching Devourer patterns already present on Earth. "They've targeted our leadership," Elena reported in an emergency council meeting. "The infiltration is focused on military and political centers, precisely the positions needed to neutralize our defenses." General Williams scoffed. "Preposterous. We'd know if our people were compromised." "The infection is subtle," Elena countered, pulling up brain scans. "It begins by influencing decision-making toward self-destructive choices, gradually taking greater control of the host." The meeting ended with implementation of mandatory scanning for all key personnel. That night, Elena's enhanced senses detected an intruder in her quarters. She activated the lights to find General Williams standing motionless in the doorway, his eyes reflecting light unnaturally. "Your detection technology is inconvenient," he said, his voice flat yet somehow layered with multiple tones. "It forces us to accelerate our timeline." Elena backed toward her desk where a prototype scanner lay partially assembled. How long have you been compromised, General? Compromised implies damage. A smile that wasn't quite human spread across his face. I've been improved. The Devourers don't just consume, they transcend. Through the suffering of sentient life, they achieve evolutionary advancement. Elena lunged for the scanner, but Williams moved with impossible speed, pinning her against the wall. His skin rippled as something beneath it shifted position. You cannot stop what has already begun, he hissed. The custodians tried. Others before them tried. All eventually served. With strength born of desperation and her newly enhanced physiology, Elena broke his grip and activated her neural link to base security. Alarms blared throughout the facility. Williams's expression became momentarily lucid. They're in my head, he gasped, fighting internal control. They want the archives, not to destroy them, but to use them. The weapons, they can be reconfigured to amplify Devourer feeding. Security forces surrounded the room, weapons trained on the general. In a final moment of clarity, Williams drew his sidearm. Elena lunged to stop him, but too late. He placed the barrel against his temple. They're coming for all of us, he whispered before pulling the trigger. As medical teams rushed in, Elena realized the horrifying truth. The Devourer's ultimate goal wasn't just consumption or control, but a grotesque transcendence through the suffering of sentient life. The Custodian Armada appeared at the edge of the solar system, over 300 vessels arranged in attack formation. Earth's unified command center beneath the Himalayas hummed with tense activity as tactical officers tracked the approaching threat. Time to intercept. 4 hours, 17 minutes, announced strategic operations. Captain Maya Santos stood before the Emergency Council, her proposal meeting resistance from every quarter. Prometheus isn't fully tested, Admiral Karev argued. We should deploy our fleet defensively around Earth and Mars. A conventional defense will fail, Maya countered. We need to demonstrate our capabilities in a way that fragments their forces. She activated a holographic display showing a nearby red dwarf system. Our scans confirm Devourer infestation in this star's core, a perfect target for our first strike. President Chen studied the proposal. The star is uninhabited. Confirmed, Maya nodded, but under observation by custodian scout vessels. The implications were clear, a demonstration visible to the enemy, showing humanity's power without unnecessary casualties. After heated debate, authorization came through. Maya returned to Prometheus, where her enhanced crew prepared for humanity's most audacious operation. All systems nominal, her XO reported. Quantum drive charge. Maya addressed the crew. What we do today changes everything. Not just for humanity, but for every species under Devourer control. She opened all communication channels, a calculated risk that would broadcast their intentions to both custodian forces and human observers throughout the system. Attention all vessels. This is Captain Santos of the UES Prometheus. We will demonstrate our stellar manipulation capabilities on an uninhabited system harboring confirmed Devourer infestation. This is not an act of aggression toward the custodian collective, but a targeted operation against the parasitic entities controlling many of your vessels. Prometheus engaged its quantum drive, disappearing from Earth orbit and reappearing near the selected red dwarf star. 3 custodian observation vessels maintained position at a distance. Deploying stellar manipulation array, Maya ordered. From Prometheus's hull extended massive projectors, technology that established quantum connections with the star's core, creating controlled fusion disruptions that rippled outward. The ship's systems strained under the enormous energy requirements, but held. The star's surface began to contract rhythmically, its magnetic field lines twisting into complex patterns. Then, with breathtaking suddenness, massive tendrils of plasma erupted, forming what appeared to be a containment sphere around the star itself. Within this sphere, the impossible became visible, shadowy entities manifesting in the vacuum of space, their forms defying conventional physics as they tried to escape the energy net. Their movements sent ripples through subspace, creating distortions that registered as screams across all communication channels. The demonstration fractured the approaching custodian fleet in real time. Uninfected ships broke formation, while vessels with higher devourer infestation readings accelerated their approach toward Earth, driven by their parasitic master's desperation. Aboard the primary custodian command ship, sensor feeds showed open rebellion as awakened crew fought against their parasitic controllers. Custodian Admiral Chaltor, one of the few highest-ranking uninfected officers, opened a direct channel to Prometheus. Captain Santos, the alien's voice resonated through the bridge. "Your weapon. It separates the devourers without destroying the hosts. How is this possible?" "Not destruction," Maya replied. "Purification." As Prometheus returned to Earth orbit, the fragmented custodian fleet's approach became chaotic. Some vessels continuing their attack trajectory, others attempting to establish communication. But Earth faced a new threat. In response to the demonstration, dormant devourer infiltrators revealed themselves, possessing key figures in a last desperate attempt to neutralize humanity's defenses. In Washington, Tokyo, Beijing, and New Delhi, infrastructure systems failed as infected officials initiated sabotage protocols. Defense grids around major population centers flickered as the enemy within struck. "They're showing themselves," Maya reported to command, "just as we predicted." The coming battle would be fought on two fronts: in space against infected custodian vessels, and on Earth against the Devourers' desperate attempt to prevent humanity from deploying their star-purifying technology across the galaxy. The battle for Earth transformed into a conflict unlike any in human history. The skies above major cities flashed with energy exchanges as infected custodian vessels engaged both human defenses and their own uninfected counterparts. On the ground, military units equipped with devourer detection technology hunted infiltrators who had revealed themselves in desperation. Dr. Elena Reyes watched tactical displays from the Coalition Command Center, hastily established in the Australian outback. Beside her stood Shalvar, a liberated custodian scientist whose expertise proved invaluable in refining their detection technology. "The purification process is ready for wider deployment," Shalvar announced, manipulating holographic models of the quantum field generator. "We can now separate parasite from host, with 72% survival rate for the host." Elena studied the modifications and the energy requirements. "Substantial, but manageable with your stellar manipulation technology." Their work represented an unprecedented collaboration. The uninfected custodians had brought centuries of xenobiology experience, while humanity contributed their genetic enhancements and archive-derived technology. The alliance faced its first devastating test when massive devourer manifestations erupted in Sydney and Rio de Janeiro. Unlike the subtle infiltrations before, these were full materializations, reality-warping shadows that coalesced into nightmarish amalgamations of species they had consumed over millennia. Casualty reports flooded in as the creatures tore through conventional defenses. Millions of civilians fled the devastation. "We need to respond decisively," Admiral Chen demanded in Emergency Council. "The Shellac system contains their primary fleet staging area. We should deploy the Star Destroyer capability immediately." Elena understood the impulse. If we simply destroy their worlds, we're no better than them. Captain Santos, recently promoted to fleet commander, offered a third option. "What about planetary-scale purification? We've never attempted it, but the principles should be the same as our stellar manipulation." The plan was audacious to the point of insanity, deploying 5 newly completed vessels to create a quantum purification field around an entire custodian homeworld. The technology had never been tested at such scale, and failure meant billions of lives lost. President Chen authorized the mission with grim determination. "Save who we can, Commander Santos, but the devourer threat must be contained, whatever the cost." The newly formed coalition fleet, comprising both human and liberated custodian vessels, arrived at Shellac's Prime 3 days later. The planet glowed with sickly energy as the devourer infestation had progressed to late stages. Deploying quantum field generators, Santos ordered from the flagship. All vessels maintain formation. Any disruption could collapse the field. For 3 agonizing days, the ships maintained a purification field that extracted devourer entities from the planet's population and core. The process created a hellish spectacle as shadowy masses were forcibly pulled from their hosts, writhing against the quantum barrier that prevented their escape. The operation succeeded, but at devastating cost. 3 coalition ships and their crews were lost when their containment fields failed, including the UES Dauntless with Commander Ramirez and his entire bridge crew. Among the casualties was Captain Santos' partner and second-in-command, Commander Eliza Kamal. The liberated Shalaxians, witnessing humans sacrificing themselves to save an alien population that had been trying to destroy them, experienced a profound cultural transformation. Their most sacred philosophical tradition emphasized survival at all costs. Yet here were humans, genetically modified by the precursors, but still recognizably themselves, choosing to risk extinction to save their former enemies. In the aftermath, Shalaxian Ambassador Teraleth addressed the Coalition Council. For generations, we believed power was the only currency of significance in the cosmos. Today we have witnessed a greater power, the capacity for mercy in the face of enmity. The Devourers cannot comprehend this, which is why they will ultimately fail. Humanity's moral complexity, its capacity for both devastating retribution and profound mercy, became the philosophical cornerstone of the growing coalition. As more infected worlds were liberated, each civilization brought unique perspectives and technologies to the Alliance. In her quarters aboard the flagship, Commander Santos mourned her losses while reviewing tactical plans for the next liberation. The path forward was clear but brutal, a methodical campaign to liberate world after world, neutralizing the Devourer threat without becoming the monsters they fought. 10 years after the discovery of the archives, Earth had transformed from humanity's only home to the administrative center of a galactic coalition. The Sol system hummed with activity as ships from dozens of liberated species moved through carefully monitored transit lanes. From her office in the Coalition headquarters, a massive orbital structure above Earth, Dr. Elena Rice studied reports from across the galaxy. Her reflection in the transparent aluminum viewport showed the toll of her connection to the archives. Premature gray streaked her hair, and fine lines etched her face. The genetic enhancements had accelerated her cognitive abilities, but at the cost of her cellular integrity. The Cygnus liberation succeeded, announced Admiral Chalvor, her Shalaxian counterpart. 93% of the population survived separation from Devourer control. Elena nodded, satisfaction tempered by the knowledge of what remained. And the core infestation. Contained, but not eliminated. Their collective consciousness grows more desperate with each failed attempt to spread. The Coalition's strategy had evolved over the decade. Fleet operations, led by ships with integrated human-alien crews, systematically liberated infected worlds while containing devourer hives that couldn't be safely neutralized. But all their efforts were ultimately stopgap measures against an enemy whose true center remained elusive. Elena's research team worked to complete the Precursor's final project, a network of stellar guardians that would establish a permanent defense against devourer infiltration. The technology adapted the purification process into automated sentinels embedded within stars themselves, creating an immune system for the galaxy. Aboard the Coalition flagship, Second Dawn, Commander Maya Santos prepared for the most dangerous mission yet, a journey to the galactic core where the Devourer collective consciousness was believed to reside. Her quarters displayed holos of crew members lost over years of campaigns, including her partner Eliza. Maya bore both physical and psychological scars from dozens of liberation operations. A lattice of silvery augmentations now ran along her spine and skull, enhancing her neural connection to archive-derived systems, but marking her as something no longer entirely human. "Commander," her XO announced over comms, "the Coalition fleet has assembled. We're ready to begin transit to Sector 0. The journey to the galactic core took 3 weeks, even with advanced quantum drives. As they approached their destination, sensors detected unusual phenomena. Space itself seemed to fold and ripple around them. Energy patterns unlike anything we've encountered, reported Science Officer T. Lara. They're singing. What awaited them was not what anyone had expected. At the heart of the galaxy lay not a monstrous devourer collective, but a tragic revelation. The devourers were themselves victims, the last survivors of a universe that had existed before our own. In the moments before the birth of the current universe, sentient beings from the previous cosmic iteration had desperately sought escape from their dying reality. They had survived by transforming themselves into energy patterns that could exist in the quantum foam between dimensions. But their incomplete transition left them in a state of perpetual entropy, feeding on stellar energy and sentient emotion to postpone their inevitable dissolution. They're not evil, Maya realized as the ship's sensors interpreted the patterns. They're desperate. They're dying. The Coalition fleet maintained formation, weapons ready as Maya established contact with the ancient consciousness. The response came not in words but in shared perceptions. Images of endless hunger, loss beyond comprehension, and the terror of final extinction. Dr. Reyes, watching from Earth via quantum entanglement, saw the moment of choice approaching. The Devourer Collective had concentrated itself, becoming vulnerable to a coordinated strike that could end the threat forever. The stellar destruction weapons were armed and ready. But something in the ancient consciousness resonated with Alina's precursor-enhanced mind. A third possibility emerged, neither destruction nor continued parasitism, but a new form of existence. The precursors couldn't imagine this solution. She transmitted to Maya. But we can. Using principles derived from the archives combined with knowledge gained from a dozen coalition species, Alina proposed a revolutionary approach. Controlled stellar energy harvesting through the Guardian Network, providing sustenance to the Devourer Collective without harming civilizations or requiring parasitic feeding. As Maya relayed the offer, the Coalition ships maintained their protective formation, ready to unleash destruction if needed. The response came as a subtle shift in the quantum patterns, a tentative acceptance.